We are talking through another year of Michael Jordan's insane 80s run. And this is where he's just like running on all cylinders from a perspective of the game plan is give it to Michael Jordan. Everyone get the fuck out of the way, as Doug Collins would say. The first year, obviously, Jordan 37 a game under Collins flourished, but he did not win the MVP because he could not get enough wins, right?
Yep.
So now he's going to win MVP with less scoring, right? So if we look at his career,
a tad bit less
less scoring, right? 35 a game, still utterly ridiculous.
Yeah.
Ramping up the defense.
Yes.
3.2 steals and a block and a half a game from your shooting guard is completely unheard of. He's shooting 53% for his, for the whole season.
Yep.
Making 25 shots a game.
This is also his Defensive Player of the Year season.
Yeah. Also, get this. I think this. Yeah, that's true. I was gonna get to that in a second, but I'm masturbating to his stats currently. He also made 1,000 field goals. 1,000 field goals. That hasn't happened in something like 10 years or a very long time.
Yeah, it probably won't happen. No, it's probably even longer than 10 years. Because even with Kobe's, I'm pretty sure he didn't hit 1,000 because
he was at 950 or something, 970. Let's get that. I can get that. What else? I thought maybe Harden would have got there.
Yeah, definitely not Harden because he's a 3-point. His 3-point shot is like the.
It's not the three though, because the 3-pointers count towards your field goals, towards your total field goals.
Yeah, Russ, but it's one. So for you to get to that number, it's just math. Sorry, but
no, I get what you're saying. Like you need more field goals to get that higher scoring.
Yeah, so you make 2 threes, you get 6 points. You make 3 twos to get, you know what I mean? Like so, that's a whole another shot less that you have to make to get that.
It takes them less shots to get to the same amount of points.
Exactly.
Basically.
With Harden, though, even more than the threes would be the free throws. Because he's always going line. And those field goals don't count when you take them.
Yeah.
But Kobe is the closest in like 20, 30 years.
Yeah. Where's Harden at? I'm sure it's like low as fuck. Probably in the 900 range.
Let's see if we can get that up. There it is.
843.
Wow. Not even in the top 100.
Yeah.
So maybe this won't happen again.
Yeah, but that just shows you the efficiency era. How that
true. That's
you know
true.
What I mean? That's 200 less field goals he had to make to get a very similar
points per game. Yeah, I agree with you. I that's a good point. Yeah. I just love Will. Just let me get almost all of them.
Yeah,
I don't know. Maybe this is one of those sneaky stats that might not happen again.
Yeah. Not with the 3-point line being used as much as it is. Unless someone starts averaging like 60. Because they're making so much threes. But I can't imagine.
Curry just decides, you know what? We're not going inside the 3-point line for the rest of my career.
Yeah.
Taking 20 to 30 threes a game. And seeing what happens.
Yeah.
But no, 1,000 field goals is incredible. And Michael Jordan's done it a couple of times. And they're all during this 80s era.
Mm-hmm.
What do you call it? But like Lindsay was saying, he's also going to be the Defensive Player of the Year, behind those 3.5 steals and 1.6 blocks.
Giannis won MVP MVP and Defensive Player of the Year last year, right?
Yeah. Is Michael the first guy to do that because of when the Defensive Player of the Year started?
Yes, I believe. I like how you say. I know exactly why you're asking that. Because you love baby or whatever.
Because Bill Russell would have had 12 of them. That's number one.
Oi.
Fucking. Hold on. Players who.
That's always gonna be a thing with me and Russ. We're never gonna
agree with that ever.
We're never gonna see eye to eye on these.
That's
things.
why we have to, at some point, we have to do the legacy breakdowns on the older guys.
Yeah. And it's just gonna be me feeling like the illest, like youthful. Like,
it'll be fun though, because we'll take time, we'll do research on it, and then you can actually like come with some real shit.
Yeah.
Instead of just being like they were old and white, you can show me how old and white they were.
Because only MJ and your boy. Oh yeah, Hakeem
Michael Jordan, Hakeem Olajuwon, another one of my guys.
Yeah.
So let's see.
Do you think you would have liked MJ? You would have rooted for MJ?
Oh, are you serious? Yes. I would have been, especially, how old am I? Give me an age. Right now? This age? Or like when I was younger?
When you were younger.
Oh my God. Are you serious? I have a Michael Jordan pillow. Like, I did root for Michael Jordan as a kid.
But you hated Kobe though.
Yeah, because Kobe was Michael Jordan, but not as good. And you cannot tell me that he was doing the same stuff. And you watched it. You went back during the fucking quarantine and you watched it and you know exactly what I'm talking about.
Yeah, but
Just wasn't that guy. But it's interesting that you bring that up because that's something that I want to talk about after we.
I'm just trying to save us some time because when you said that, it triggered me. But I'm just gonna let the trigger stay there and act like you didn't say that.
But MJ, yeah, he was the first one. So there you go.
Yes.
He was the first one. Akeem would be after him.
Yeah.
And then Giannis has it.
It took almost 30 years for it to happen again.
It's crazy. That's
the only one close to that would have been LeBron. And LeBron did get screwed for that, by the way.
We talked about that. We talked about that when we did that season. That was during the Miami era.
That's the media control, right? So there's a guy who's talking.
Oh, wait a minute. Before you get into media control 20 years from now, let's talk about media control in fucking 1987. You don't think Michael Jordan? This is my exact point. When you ask me a question like, do you think you would have rooted for Michael Jordan as a child? Or in this era? Even if I'm in my early 20s, like when we're in college, everyone in our dorm would be rooting for MJ, I would imagine. Because he was a superhuman. Nobody took to the air the way a lot of people do today, in terms of like, you got people who jump out of the gym. He was a guy who could jump out of the gym, but he was super fundamentally sound. Kenny Smith says this all the time. He was the best athlete, but had the most fundamentals to the game of basketball.
Throughout a majority of his career, he was he was in the top 5 in defensive player of the year in a majority of his career, which is insane to me because like that doesn't happen usually.
Yeah, LeBron was in there for a few years, especially when he was in Miami.
Yeah.
And those late, because that Cleveland team was in the top 5 of defense.
I want to say 7, no, probably even more than that. But I want to say for sure 7 out of the 12, 13 seasons that he played before, with the Bulls.
Yeah.
He was in the top 5 in defensive player of the year.
But
because I remember checking those stats to kind of like keep track of it.
Yeah.
It was insane. But what I wanted to tell you, because when we did Magic Johnson's legacy breakdown, we made a case for Magic Johnson to and that was kind of what we did for a lot of the players that we did legacy breakdown. Should they have won MVP this year? How many times did you get screwed? Because a lot of people like to say, MJ should have had 7, 8 MVPs. Magic Johnson should have had more. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And we made a case that Magic should have arguably been an MVP this year.
Yeah, and Magic Johnson's sitting at basically 20-12, right?
Yep.
And he's got 12 more wins than MJ.
Yeah.
So it's strictly, especially after focusing on Jordan's career, this has got to be what the thought is. Jordan, you would have got it last year. Your stats are amazing. You're clearly the best player in the league to us, but we can't give it to you because you're not winning enough. Now that he finally cracked this 50-win plateau, maybe people, it's kind of like that Russell Westbrook triple-double year. Like, people wanted to give Westbrook that MVP, but he wasn't he didn't get to that top 3 wins, so it was tough.
And the Bulls were the 7th best team in the league that year, in terms of record.
True, because the West has a lot more. Well, it's a little top heavy too, because if you go down here, there's a couple dumpster fires down here.
For usually records matter a good amount with these MVP things.
Wow. Yeah, wow. The East, though, look at this. Look, actually, just quick, look at this. There's only one team that's like pretty bad. 36 wins put you in second to last in the conference.
Yeah,
that's a competitive. Yeah, that is a competitive conference.
And that was a big thing going in the 80s. It was completely different from the 2000s and 2010s or whatever, where the East was the weaker conference. Even in the 90s, because the 90s the East was the weaker conference as well. But in the 80s, the West was the weaker conference
for sure,
so, and that's why a lot of people said, like, kind of don't shit on Magic, but like
it's a critique of Magic's career for sure, and we looked into it.
Yeah, yep.
But I don't know. What do you think now that we're looking at it through the lens of MJ? Do we still think? I kind of still think Magic probably should have gotten this by the standards we use MVP now. But
I hate those standards, though. That's my whole thing. Like,
it's the truth.
For me personally, I would say Michael Jordan should be MVP. But with the normal standards of the NBA, it looks like Magic kind of got screwed here.
Yeah.
Think about it. Kobe, this is literally the same thing. This is Kobe Nash all over again, except the fact that Kobe won, 42 games, maybe, something like that. Yeah. So a little bit less games, but it's the same thing. Like, Magic is pretty much doing the same thing that Nash did, but with a little bit more rebounds.
I agree. And Magic was Magic at this point. Late 80s Magic. All the confidence.
They won the chip this year, right?
Yeah, I think so. Got to check that, but I think so.
Yeah, I'm almost 100% sure he did.
It's either them or the Pistons. Yeah, this is the last. They won against the Pistons in the final.
Yeah. And my whole thing is Michael Jordan. He also we didn't mention this, but this is the first time he played with this guy who's going to be very important in his career, named Scottie Pippen.
That doesn't matter this year.
And no. Well, it does, because the only reason, do I have to do it again?
Scottie Pippen averaged 7 points, 3.8 rebounds, 2.1 assists, and a steal in 20 minutes a game, and never started.
The shade is back, all right?
All right.
So Michael Jordan has never passed the first round ever until that man is there.
I'm so happy you said this. I'm so happy you brought this up. Let me put my light back on, because this leads me right into Cleveland.
Yep.
And let me tell you something about Cleveland, man. It's a 5-game series, right? It's not the shot. We're a year away from the famous shot.
Yes.
But Cleveland is a rivalry. They're both up and coming teams. You got Mark Price. You got what is his name? The center, Jack Doherty. There you go. John Doherty, Jack Doherty, something like that. I'll get it in a second.
I feel like John something.
Brad Doherty. Brad,
actually, like, interchangeable.
What's his name? I'll get it in a second. But Michael Jordan, first game, 50 points. Second game, that's not enough. 35 or 55. Excuse me, that's not enough. Then he goes. This is his lowest performance, 38 points. Comes back 44 and 39 in Game 5 in this 5-game series, for a grand average of 45 points a game in 5 games, to essentially carry his team, because the scores of these games are fairly.
This is
45 and 3 steals.
That too.
This is better than his Celtics performance.
This is crazy. Well, I would say definitely, because they won.
Well, yeah.
They didn't even get a game against Boston.
Yeah.
But, obviously Michael Jordan led every game in scoring. And these scores are 101-107, 93-104. So when he puts up 45 points a game, he's putting up 40 to 45% of his team's total scoring.
Yep.
That is absurd. That is completely unheard of. And what's the comparison for today? Like, if someone did that today, if John Morant for the Grizzlies, he put up 47 in his last game, right? If he did that for the whole series, we would be like, this kid is the future.
Yes.
This kid is the fucking future. He is the messiah of the next generation, right?
Yeah.
So that's what was happening here, except there was less TV coverage. So when you saw him on national TV, it was like a gazillion people were watching it. The TV era was big at this point.
Yep.
You know? So it was just, in terms of like, speechless. Because he also shot 56%.
Yeah. And
which means he was just straight raw dogging.
Yeah. And he didn't take not one three. He was just like, we are at your ass.
Yeah. All game. He took
mad at it.
60 free throws in the fucking series in 5 games. So he's taking more than 10 free throws a game.
Yeah.
Savage. Right? 45, 5 and 5 with 3 steals and a block and a half.
Yeah.
Want to talk about taking your play up to the next level, right? We went through LeBron's entire career, and he didn't get to this thing, because whatever it is, there's something about putting the ball in the fucking basket that people just fucking are obsessed with. You could probably speak to this way better than I can. Like,
well,
what is it about bucket getters? Talk to me about this.
It's not. So the whole thing about, like, a lot of people feel like it depends on how you do it. And I was lucky enough to watch Kobe Bryant. That was my favorite player, and I was able to actually be able to explain what's the difference between a guy that can score at will and how that affects a game versus like a guy who does all around things. So like LeBron, like that was the biggest thing. And people always felt like, but like what Kobe did wasn't as like big. And the only reason I mentioned Kobe is because Kobe and Michael are so similar.
Sure.
So when you get a guy who's relentless and continues to keep scoring,
right,
and is literally scoring at will, especially in the biggest parts of the game, when it's starting to teeter and you get in towards the end, those things, it hurt. It literally, like, it's like it's like what I'm trying to find the exact word, but it's like, because it's so relentless, you kind of lose hope almost. You're like, I'm never gonna stop this guy, which puts a lot of pressure on the offense.
Sure.
Now you got this guy who you're looking at and you're like, this guy's an automatic bucket. Yeah. And now I have to continue to score with him somehow. And then the thing about Michael was he's also a lockdown defender.
Yep.
And then, like, all right, I know you mentioned Scottie's not the same guy, but he's still averaging a steal and a block in this game.
And he put up 24 here.
Yeah. Well, not this game. In the series, he was averaging a steal and a block. So he's still playing the decent defense.
These are the stats from the closeout game. Sorry.
Yeah. And if you got 2 good wing defenders, that takes up a lot of. Now you just got to play a game inside, and that's not gonna. And then when you got a guy who's freaking just attacking, scoring 55 points a game, 50 points a game, it puts too much pressure on you. Even though they went 5.
I cannot wait till we get through this legacy breakdown, and we got to bring one of these teams forward. One of these apex seasons of MJ's forward, so we can put that to the test of the 2 wing best. Because the way I see it in 2021, as we're right in the middle of the playoffs as we record this, the 2 best wing defenders in the NBA were put together on a team, and so far that's.
Do we have to talk about this? Really?
No. It definitely needs
completely necessary.
Because the 2 greatest wing defenders in the history of the NBA are on this team.
I'm not saying Scottie's at that point yet.
No, I know, but they're still on the team. They're still in Scottie. It exists in the future, right?
He had a crazy elimination game.
I'm still taking Scottie over Paul George. Okay.
Yeah.
And
I cannot wait.
No, and I'm taking Scottie over Paul George right now. Like in this series.
I mean, look at that. That's 24 points. I mean, fuck, I might take him too.
For a guy who we're gonna crap on a lot in elimination games over the next couple of legacy breakdown seasons here, this is a great stat line from Scottie Pippen. No migraines, no back spasm, no nothing.
Well, he was 21 or whatever, so I mean, he didn't.
Hey, you know what? It doesn't stop him in a few years from now, so he's not that old.
Yeah.
But Jordan, obviously, complete savage, 45 points a game. Probably one of the best PERs for one series of all time. But we get to their first meeting with the Detroit Pistons.
Yeah.
This didn't really get talked about that much when The Last Dance happened. They just kind of skipped through. They were like, yeah, he won MVP. He was the Defensive Player of the Year. Now we're moving on to 89.
No, they kind of. I think they talked about it, and they talked about the Jordan rules. This is the beginning of
They did, but they brought it up in the context of the 89 playoffs, because that's when the Pistons win the championship for the first time. That's what I watched it this morning.
Yeah,
I watched it like 25 to 30 minutes ago, before we were recording, to make sure I was right about this. Because I was tripping, because I was like, oh, they play the Cavs, so this is when the shot happens, and then they play the Pistons and they get beat. But this happened a year before, where they beat the fucking Cavs in 5, and now they play the Pistons and they lose in 5, right?
Yeah.
So I wanted to look at Jordan's numbers here. So in comparison to 45 points a game, 27.4 at 49% shooting is way closer to back down to earth.
Yeah.
Right? In comparison.
Like, for instance, Kawhi Leonard does that right now, and we look at him as one of the top 10 players in the league.
Right. True.
And just looked at right now, when looking at Jordan, we look at him like he probably didn't do enough.
And basically what the Pistons mentality is he is the only guy who can definitively defeat our team on his team. There's nobody else. If you take him out of the equation, there is no one on the Bulls at this point, and the way Doug Collins' system worked, that could really deliver damage and defeat the Pistons at this stage of the game. Yeah. So the Jordan rules were, right? You force Michael left, because according to them, he was phenomenal and godlike going right, but he was only, quote, this is a quote, he was only great going to his left. So that's the first one, right? Mm-hmm. Second part was, you never let him drive baseline, because as you'll see on the screen, some of his greatest highlights of Michael Jordan's career were baseline finishes, up and under, dunking on people on the baseline, right? Mm-hmm. He owned the baseline because he could use that sideline to his advantage to protect the ball. So you do not let him go baseline. You force him to the middle, and you bring the help defense that way, right?
Yeah.
Last thing, and this is the most well-known portion of the Jordan rules, is if options 1 and 2 don't work, you hit him in the mouth and you foul him as hard as you fucking can.
Yeah.
And that so far has turned Jordan into a mere 49% shooter, which is still, as you said, phenomenal. But in total, they scored 87 points per game. Jordan's still that 30-40% of the scoring total. Mm-hmm. But as the Pistons predicted correctly, nobody else on this team could do anything.
You want to know what I find very interesting about that? So, I don't know if you remember, but back in I want to say 2012, maybe 2011, right. Jordan, right before the All-Star game, said, kind of broke down how to guard LeBron James, how he would guard LeBron James. And one of the biggest,
Yeah, no, I finished. I know where you're going with this.
One of the biggest things was telling him, make him go left.
Yep.
And the reason for that is because when you make a right-handed shooter go left, you force a jump shot. So and I remember Kobe blocking LeBron during that, and they it was a huge big spectacle about a freaking All-Star game.
Right.
How to guard LeBron, and because he went left. And I could understand why Jordan thought like that, because he looked at when he was the most unstoppable player ever.
Yep.
The way to stop him was partially because they made him go left, and they made him a jump shooter over an attacker of the basket.
Exactly.
Which was very interesting to me, just to think about that, because
I didn't think about it until you started to say it, and I was like, oh yeah, you did make him go left.
Yeah,
you did say that shit.
Yeah.
But this is going to be the first time that Michael Jordan is fucking stymied by the Detroit Pistons.
Do you think if Phil Jackson never became the head coach and they kept Doug Collins, do you think he would have ever got over the hump and won a championship?
I don't think so. And I want to give a more detailed answer on that, but it's so perfect later. But please ask me that next.
If you guys remember anything from these videos, every time I ask Russell a question, he never could answer it.
I can, but you're going to take away 10 minutes from another segment.
Oh my God.
But actually...